Wes Streeting has engaged in a bizarre attack on Zack Polanski on Twitter, bringing up the hypno-boob story again. Now, what's strange about this attack is that it wasn't a direct response to Polanski, but a small Green Party Isle of Wight account. This is the interaction in which Wes Streeting is talking about striking doctors, emergency legislation on prioritisation of UK-trained doctors, plus 4,000 extra speciality places, that's 1,000 immediately, and a cut in competition for training places from 4-1 to less than 2-1. Not at some point in the future, for the current round. These are not grounds to strike. And the Isle of Wight Green Party account replied, "We trust real doctors, not spin doctors." I thought that was quite a good line, actually. Very witty from them. But Streeting couldn't help, and he had to come back, and he quote tweeted them saying this: "You're led by someone who thinks breast enlargement can be delivered with the power of his mind. Wind your necks in." I mean, that's such an odd response. I mean, firstly, it wasn't in reply to Zack, and secondly, nurses and doctors are not happy, and to respond in such a childish way, I think it's an insult to our health workers who are important to society. However, Zack Polanski clapped back and dealt with the final knockout blow. So he didn't say anything. What he did was share an infographic, and at the top of the infographic it says, "Who's got a piece of Wes Streeting?" And of course, you can see different numbers there of who's donated to Streeting. And not only that, but he completely ratioed Wes Streeting as well. But replying with all the donations Streeting received from those linked to private health. I mean, that is how you respond to a silly political attack. You come back aggressive, but you also use facts. The man simply loves taking money from private health companies. Streeting's donations averages nearly £10,000 a month. He's taken 58 grand in support since July 2024. More than 60% of his donations since 2015 came from private health linked sources, bringing his total from such interest to £372,000. That's the most important part about all of this. Streeting is a puppet for private healthcare. He's always been a big proponent of NHS privatisation. Back in 2023, he said that Labour would hold the door wide open to private companies. Many Labour MPs deny that they support NHS privatisation. One of the excuses they give, or like to give, is that they support free at the point of use. So it's not privatisation. This is Rosie writing, sparring with Zack Polanski on Channel 4's The Forecast.
During the general election, I had a debate with Wes Streeting, and I talked about that they have a plan to privatise it. He put his arm up at me and said, "The left are bleating on again." But we've seen it over and over again. Not only are they accepting money from private healthcare companies, they're looking at more and more ways of reducing the spending.
So you genuinely believe that we want an NHS that's not free at the point of use?
Yes, I do believe that.
There is a party, Reform UK, that are waiting in the wings to come in, and they genuinely want to move our NHS to an insurance-based system. They want to privatise our NHS. It is a Labour government that invented the NHS. It is
they also say that they would have free healthcare at the point of delivery, don't they?
I think they've gone back and forth. I think they've said one thing one day, one thing the other. I think it's uncertain what they would do to our NHS. I think our NHS is at risk at the hands of Nigel Farage. It's a Labour government that created the NHS. It's a Labour government that's increased investment in the NHS. It's a Labour government that's got our waiting times down. We promised 3 million appointment, we've delivered 5. I think it is dangerous when we know the risks that are waiting in the wings with Nigel Farage and what he would do to our NHS, that you say that a Labour government is privatising the NHS and doesn't want an NHS free at the point of use. That is against our DNA. It's against what I stand for.
Are you giving more contracts to private healthcare or not?
I don't personally, I don't know the details, and I think you could look at all different aspects of healthcare and talk about them all separately.
So do you think we're reducing contracts with private healthcare?
That a Labour government will always have an NHS that is free at the point of the use.
Well, it can be free at the point of use, and it can still.
But that's not privatising the NHS.
Well, ultimately it is, because it means that we, as the public, are being ripped off because the money that is going to those private healthcare companies.
But that is not the same as what you just said. You said Labour want to privatise the NHS.
Well, that would be privatising. You'd literally be giving it to private companies.
You said that Labour don't want an NHS free at the point of use. I just asked you, I said, does Labour want an NHS free at the point of use? And you said no.
I think that's where they want to get to. But where we are right now is we are seeing the privatisation in terms of the active verb. You are privatising the National Health Service.
I'll ask you first about Wes Streeting. What do you make of his attack against Zack Polanski?
I mean, it's very desperate. I mean, it's very self-apparent that Wes Streeting has no ideas
other than to continuously privatize the NHS, seemingly. So it's not surprising that he's like lashing out. But I guess it's just a pattern of behavior for West Streeting. When you're void of ideas on how to actually improve the National Health Service and listen and be responsive to what nurses and doctors are saying, what in the top of his mind is the priority is, like you said, that quote, literally holding the door open for privatization. So, I don't think much of West Streeting, as you can probably tell. I think that he's someone who is very easily led by money and wants power and position. And ultimately, I think that he will lose his seat in the next election. I think it was it Leanne Mohammed who was going after his seat last time. I think whoever's going after his seat next time will win, because he's not liked. He has no real constituency, and if he keeps on talking like this to people and to health workers and doctors, it's obviously not going to end well for him.
In that clip, you got Rosie writing Labour MP conflating free at the point of use of privatisation. We know they're two different things. So do you think these people are deliberately misleading people on what privatisation means? Or are these people actually so dense that they believe it's the same thing?
Look, I wouldn't put it past any of them to be particularly dense in certain matters, but I think you're absolutely right that the main thing here is privatization by stealth. We've seen this over the years where they say, oh, well, you can still have an appointment, right? You don't have to pay at the door. And I think what we as the public should be educated on as a response is the increasing contracts that are given to the mates, or usually the mates of these politicians, to come into the NHS for one thing or another, whether it's things like cleaning contracts, whether it's getting more of our data. The end goal is the enrichment of a small group of people and their shareholders at the expense and rising costs and shittier service, if you will, for everyone else. So I think they are absolutely aware of what they're doing. It's privatization by stealth. It's not so in your face so as to make it less outrageous for people. But the end goal is the same, to make services shittier and actually the enrichment of only a small group of people.